Yeah, it turns out Reese was watching the battle from the cliffs. What do you do with the feather at this point?
I keep it. It's a souvenir now.
And what about the captain's body?
I mean, bring them back to town. Let them do whatever burial rites they want.
Okay.
Yeah, not just the captain. Like, we can do it with the other Birdmen.
Yeah.
Well, the captain's the important one. He's the one that actually had rank and station. But I like the way you think.
You're saying he's the one who had a name.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm hearing.
All right, so let's go ahead and...
Gotta look up a name and children on fantasynamesgenerators.com for these other Birdmen.
Get rid of all of that.
Nope.
What?
It doesn't exist or it's no longer available. One of the two.
I just see an empty table.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see
That's weird.
the good old...
The image
broken
you are
image
requesting does
does
not
exist. It's no longer
No
available.
longer available.
It's
Yeah.
still there. It's just the empty grid. It's my naked RPG table.
Yeah, I've got the normal grid. Yep.
Weird.
It's not what I have.
Yeah,
That's not what I have. No.
That's all right. I'm going to replace with the actual map that we're using in a second here.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
It's fine. It's fine.
So the aftermath of the attack is bittersweet because you guys managed to repel the attack with minimal casualties, but they did lose one of the cornerstones of their community. So there is quite a lot of discussion about who the next captain will be, basically. And there is a service held in their large stone temple glorifying the fallen man's life. The four of you are, without a doubt, the heroes of the hour. And now I actually do need somebody's name.
Grand Sterius, but, like, not the one we know.
Right.
Two people can have the same name.
Grand Sterius Smith.
Yeah.
What are the odds?
Kuruse.
that.
The Cypher liaison. Reese, this is not her first visit to Precipice, but it's been a very, very long time. Again, this is kind of an out-of-the-way location on Elysium, so not a lot of Cyphers make it out to this area. But the four of you and Factal Reese are considered guests of honor in Precipice. And Reese advises you all to fill your bellies and get a good night's rest because you have a long journey ahead of you tomorrow. Notably, she says absolutely nothing about the battle. She doesn't heap any praise on you. She doesn't give you any pats on the back. You're not getting any accolades from the Factal. But the rest of the Aarakocra and the giant eagles that live in Precipice, you are their heroes of the hour.
I guess. I guess I should ask, or at least put the question to the Aarakocra. Do you think that the one who came to you, the injured one, do you think he was in Dragon's employ, or do you think they went and got the dragon?
Most likely, the dragon was an ally of opportunity. That it's doubtful that those Aarakocra that escaped would be able to muster another ally with that level of strength. Clearly, that dragon wasn't counting on having powerful spellcasters and crack shots and whatever the hell Mahogany is at their disposal.
Everything. He's like everything.
Mahogany is a mahogany.
Does Riot write a song about making that dragon dance?
Oh yeah.
Wonderful.
And she'll sing it for anybody who cares to listen.
Mahogany tries to get her to write up the Ballad of Kelian's Goblin.
We don't need to go into detail about what Kelian did to that goblin. We all understand. We all have imaginations. Does anybody have any more business in Precipice for the next day?
We do have to deal with that dragon. I mean, general oppose is general oppose, but like we gotta do something.
So what do you want done with it? Like, what's the end goal here? Do you want to try to arrange for transport back to Sigil?
That sounds rad.
But also really hard.
Yeah.
That's something that
I mean,
Karuse might be able to help facilitate. It's going to be a very big job, and they're willing to do it for you based on the service that you've done for Precipice. The problem is they don't have the resources to just make the transit happen. Like,
We
tell you what, I've got a-
ships on the river.
I've
Nath,
got a
repeat that.
guild that you can contact that for a small payment would be willing to come get this dragon and sell it for us.
So you're going to have Karuse go back to Sigil and contact your Adventurers
Serendipity.
Guild?
Yeah.
Okay.
Could I do
really
a
like that
once over
idea.
on the dragon to see if there's any valuable spell components for anything I can do?
What did you have in mind?
I don't know. That's why I wanted to ask if like there's an Arcana or something I could check. Let me look at my spell list.
Okay.
Yeah, that takes care of my other worry, which is that like even if we had Caruse's people bring it to Seal, then we've got a dragon there that belongs to us. But like, where do we put it? So, but if Mahogany's group is taking care of it, then that works out well.
As
Yeah, I
far
give
as
them a lot of money once, so they do stuff for me sometimes.
as far as what you want to do with the dragon when you get it there, for transport, I mean, they're going to butcher it here and bring it back in pieces.
Yeah,
Put the meat on the market, have the scales collected, have like the gold and gems pried out of its skin.
Yeah.
If you want to transport this dragon whole back to Sigil,
No,
that's going to be
No, that's outrageous.
There's no reason to do that.
No,
We,
we're just
do we want to keep the head? The head's kind of cool.
I don't know. Our dragon had sacred Osprey. I saw that dragon swimming. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it was kind of floundering, I thought.
It had a swim speed, it just never had the opportunity to use it.
Tried.
I mean, the
God
only
bless
thing I'm
it.
seeing off the books that I might do is take some scales as a component for banishment for anything that hates green dragons.
Okay.
Don't worry, buddy. We'll give you a great price.
So what we'll do then is, because I don't want to deal with it right now, but I'll go through and itemize what all this dragon is worth, and then I'll have Nath, next time we're back in Sigil, you can make an Arcana check, and we'll go over and see what might be useful for there. No part of the dragon goes to waste, correct?
No, we use every part of the dragon.
Every part.
Okay. Which of you has the slowest, like, standard movement speed?
I mean, I'm 30, which might be the lowest.
I have 30, but I horseshit around so much. It's probably
30.
higher than that.
30 on land, 40 swim.
Also 30.
Liberation's real slow though.
Yeah, he's 10, 20.
He's non-existent.
So Nath, I'm not worried about Kelian, because technically Kelian has Cunning Action, which over long distances he can use to increase movement speed.
Oh, that reminds me, Keelan, you have something like you get like 100 HP back.
Oh wait,
Oh,
Brick,
perfect.
tell me what the
we took a long
context of
rest,
this
right?
is. Because we're traveling, I'm going to cast Longstrider on everyone.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and take the benefits of the long rests and any spellcasting healing you want to do. The denizens of Precipice load you guys down with supplies. Fresh fish, as much water as you can carry, nuts and berries and fruits and things gathered from the vicinity. Lots of different kinds of delicious morsels. If not eaten in the next 24 hours, will probably spoil. That's pretty much all they have in the way of rewards. They're not going to give you
It's
gold
fine,
or
we got a
anything.
dragon.
But yeah, Karuse
I'm
will
just-
take a
but-
couple of the Birdmen and arrange for your dragon to be butchered and taken back to Sigil.
Mahogany, he says to the people, like, listen, I'm just really glad to be on a good line plane that likes me.
Wait, you don't think the Beastlands liked you?
These lines don't care.
Yeah, they don't care. The journey overland, you're using Longstrider in order to speed
Yeah.
everybody up. The
Yeah.
journey overland, the difficult part is just keeping up with Reese. And she hasn't brought anybody with her. She doesn't have any. Usually, when you see her in Sigil, she's flanked by other members of the Ciphers, people who work with her out in the field. But she's come alone right now, and in fact, she's not wearing Cipher colors anywhere on her clothing or on her robes. And she's saying very, very little. And it takes you several hours over the course of the next few days to realize that she's saying very little, because she always says very little. But she's saying very little even for Reese.
That's pretty dire.
And when you guys break for camp that evening in one of the mountain ridges of the second layer of Elysium, as you're preparing your fish dinner, fish and fruits and whatnot, she says, to no one in particular, that she's willing to put down her life to see this mission through successfully. And she says that she expects the same out of all of you.
Mahogany nods, but then he says, if anyone dies, we're bringing them back.
I hope you would. I mean, I don't want to be dead forever alone in a maze.
And Reese looks at Mahogany, and it's always difficult to read Reese when you're just looking at her. But you can tell she takes no joy in saying this. But she says, where we're going, that might not be possible.
Mahogany just nods again.
What's Kelian's
I mean, fair
response
enough.
to this?
Yeah, there's always fates worse than death. Sure. Why stop now?
You're in for a penny, huh?
Yeah. When you're in for a penny, try to get the penny back.
That's fair.
At the end of the second day of travel, you all arrive at what kind of resembles a hobbit hole from the outside. Just a large wooden door set directly into the side of a cliff face with two small windows set with thick glass panes off to either side.
Oh, hey, Rick, sorry to interrupt you.
Sure.
Do we need to make, like, saves sitting out because we're on Elysium and we take a long rest or two?
Oh, yes, you do, actually.
We got 2 rests.
Yeah, what is this? Wisdom? Charisma. Wisdom, I thought?
I feel like it's wisdom.
I feel like it's wisdom because I did good at it.
18 and 20.
Was it a DC 10?
It
Pass
is
and pass.
12.
One fail, one save.
Pass both.
Okay, so nobody's failed 3 times, though, correct?
No.
No.
Those of you who failed on the second day, do you use Greater Restoration to reverse that?
I think everyone failed on the first day.
If you failed on the first day, that's fine. That's not going to matter. Inside,
When you pass, does that eliminate a level, or is it just...
if you pass, it kind of resets it down to 0. You've got to fail 3 times in a row
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah,
before you don't ever want to leave the plane ever.
gotcha.
The dwelling they bring you to is essentially this multi-layered barracks. The top room looks like it's made only to be defensible. Reese illuminates the tip of her staff as she leads you inside.
Convenient.
She tells you that you need to prepare yourself to pay very close attention to what the man you're about to be introduced to says. She says he's been a member of the Transcendent Order for longer than she's been alive, and that he becomes extremely angry if he ever has to repeat himself.
Mahogany casts enhance ability wisdom on himself.
Okay.
Oh god, it's Duke Darkwood. Why is it always Duke Darkwood?
Many of the layers that you guys pass through as you go down this kind of zigzaggy set of stairs are empty. They're not in any. They've been fallen to disuse. It becomes clear that the ciphers didn't actually create this place. This area had a use long time ago, and the ciphers kind of took it over after it was abandoned. The bottom layer that you reach opens up into a very wide room, maybe about 50 feet to a side. And it's already pretty well illuminated with magical cantrips. In the center of this room, you see this incredibly large clockwork device, on top of which sits a large glass globe filled with some kind of liquid, and there's motion in it. It's sloshing slightly back and forth. Arranged around this apparatus are 6 chairs with leather straps at the wrists and ankles, and then one up at the top to go over the forehead. Connecting these chairs is just a network, just as like a spider's web of metal tubing running back and forth to the apparatus and to all the chairs themselves. Reese stops at the base of the stairs and tells you this is Karathe, and he'll explain what needs to be done. At that point, an old man steps out from behind the apparatus.
An old human man?
Yeah, presume either human or half-elf. It's difficult to tell, but very old. Snow white hair, and he walks with the confidence of Duke Darkwood, but not the physical ability. Like he's trying to hide the fact that each step is pained. And he looks at your group like he doesn't believe what he's seeing. Like, really? These are the guys? This is okay. I guess we're doing this. And he looks you guys over. One to the other. And then his gaze settles on Nath. And he says, "Tell me what you know of the astral plane."
The astral, it connects all of the other planes. The traitors scum Yankee live there, often on the corpses of dead gods. Been there once or twice. There are a couple of very powerful spells that will project your thoughts there in such a way that only your mind's representation is seen there, and you're generally vulnerable, though certain swords can certainly change your opinions on that.
And as Nath
place where thought takes over the strength of body.
As Nath is giving this explanation, you see this old man kind of wince his eyes and shake his head disappointedly. Who all standing here? Mahogany, Riot, and Kelian. His gaze then falls onto Riot. And he says, "And what do you know of the ethereal plane?"
Has Riot ever been there? I'm trying to remember if they were ever forced onto it or something.
No, not to my knowledge.
I'll make an Arcana check. I assume that would be the roll, right?
Sure, you can make an Arcana check.
Whoop. 8. Probably very little.
Yeah, you know that there is an ethereal plane, but it's not really relevant because it doesn't touch the outer plane, so who cares?
Yeah,
That's
right. So it's a place where you go where you don't want to be saw then.
And it's very clear that Karathe does not like these answers in the slightest. He can't believe he's talking down to your level. So he shows you a diagram. That is not how I wanted this to get stretched.
You might want to tablet this one.
Yeah, you
We
know
can
what?
zoom in on a tablet.
That's
This
what we'll do.
poster was hanging at my wall at my old last house for about 4 or 5 years.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I should have.
I don't know if I had this. I think I had the other side with the spire on it.
We'll just make this tablet super big. I should have rotated that in Photoshop. No, what are you? No, what are you doing? Stop it!
Wait, you should have rotated the tablet in Photoshop?
No, the image, because then it would have stretched properly on the table.
Yeah, I totally had this poster on my wall.
Okay, so what you're looking at here is essentially a map of the entire multiverse, all of the known cosmology. This is the most generally agreed upon map in Sigil. There are obviously a lot more interpretations all over the planes, but this is the one that, if you're familiar with it at all, this is the one you would know.
This is the Mercator projection.
Yeah, pretty much.
Made by the Sea People.
And there's essentially... And he's pointing this out in a way that sounds kind of like a professor giving a lecture to a hall filled with disinterested students that he knows isn't listening. But he points out the outer planes, most of which you guys have actually traveled to. I was doing a count earlier. I think there's only like 3 or 4 outer planes you've never been to.
Well,
We'll
it
get
is a
there.
Planescape campaign.
Yeah. And the outer planes are connected to the prime material through the astral plane, which is a place that has no matter. It's a place of pure intellect, belief, very abstract. It's not a place that you can travel to. And because there's nothing material there that creates it. On the opposite side, you've got these inner planes, which are connected to the prime material through the ethereal. And he describes this as being the opposite. This is a place is made up of the soup of material creation. Intellect and belief count for nothing there. It's kind of the primordial ooze that all of the elements are made out of, which is, and then in turn are the building blocks of matter throughout the rest of the plane. He then asks what's missing from this map.
Flagstaff?
The astral, the outer,
The Ladies' Mazes?
the inner, ethereal.
But he asks, where are the ladies' mazes?
Mahogany shrugs.
Of all of your paras and quasis.
Yeah, Riot's guess is the Flagstaff.
I mean, Sigil, but obviously it's just because this is an abstraction and this spire is infinitely tall.
And he says he would expect a group of Sigillians like you to be more familiar with the rule of 3.
The third plane, besides the astral and the ethereal.
The shadow is sometimes used as a transitive plane, but I think it's primarily used on the prime.
Is
I
this
don't know of
that
anything
thing-
that you go travel through the shadow to get to.
Is this that thing the Alchaianic Order was going on about? The Beyond whatever?
So do you mention the Alchaianic Order at all?
Yeah, I mean, you're right at saying this out loud.
Okay. And Karathe turns to Riot and gives her, like, the slightest of nods in agreement. He says there is a theoretical space that connects the inner and outer planes. The Al-Khayandak Order have dedicated their lives to finding this place. And then he glances over at Reese, and he says, we have actually located it. We know how to get there. He describes this as a transitive plane that would connect the inner and outer planes. And he describes it in such a way that this is kind of a secret of the multiverse. It's something that's protected. Knowledge of this place, were it to be used by mortals, would be incredibly destructive. For one thing, it would be used as a highway between inner and outer planes. And if you think the Blood War is bad, you imagine what would happen if the armies of the inner and outer were to clash on a regular basis.
Could you use it to cast spells easier? You'd be closer to the inner planes.
Karathe believes that that's why the Al-Khayandak Order is attempting to find it. Many years ago, one of the previous factals of the Transcendent Order theorized that this was the location of the Ladies' Mazes. A place that in some way touches Sigil and no other place in the multiverse. And the lady uses that as a conduit to create spaces to imprison people. Karathe believes that the device that he's built here, with years and years of resources and many, many lives worth of research being done, he believes this device, if properly attuned to somebody trapped in one of the Ladies' Mazes, will send you there.
I guess you haven't tested it yet?
He says he can't guarantee what will happen after he activates the device, but he gives you all of his assurances. He's been working on this project pretty much the entirety of his natural life, and then beyond some. Many decades of research and blood and sweat and tears have gone into this by a group of people who, kind of as is par for the course for the ciphers, have no great ambition in power or conquest.
I guess the next question is, can you bring us back once you've sent us?
She took the words from my mouth.
He says that he should be able to, yes. Because you won't actually be traveling there.
All right.
Is it like projecting? We're going to be sitting here like ghosting on the astral.
He nods. He says that's exactly what it'll be like. This is a sensation that few planners, few people born outside of the prime material ever get to experience.
Well, I'm up for that.
I only know of it secondhand, but assuming there are no silver swords, we should be fine.
Liberation could do it.
Well, we think.
Oh yeah, it's true. We don't know for sure, do we? He says worst case scenario. He says that the Factal has imposed a time limit on our side here on Elysium of 72 hours. And he looks up at Reese, and Reese just nods at him. So after that, I am to disconnect the device from all of you. Worst case scenario, this kills everyone. And we have contingencies in place to raise the dead. Or it may simply drag you back. We don't know. That's not the dangerous part of this mission.
Well, what is?
The dangerous part is you're going to a place that no living person has been to and returned from. You're going to a place of utterly unknown magical conditions.
Yes.
We have no idea how your spells and abilities will function there. We have no idea how injury will affect you in that space. We have no idea if injuries can be healed. We have no idea if death can be reversed.
How would we bring someone back from it? If we're all just effectively astrally projecting, or whatever this space is called, projecting.
And it's Reese that steps forward and answers that question. And she says that it's well known that all of the ladies' mazes have an exit. That if you're unable to find Jade Bull and bring her through the exit in 72 hours, which might not be 72 hours on the other side, then the mission is a failure. He's going to drag everyone out. They don't know what happens to prolonged exposure in there.
Okay.
So the goal is to get into Jade Bull's maze, which they're going to do by using Reese's personal connection with her over many, many years. Locate the exit inside of that maze, and then bring her through it.
Can I ask a kind of dumb, out-of-character question?
Those are my favorite.
Do we know why Jade Bull was mazed?
Yes, kind of.
She
Started the
founded
cult
a
of the
cult. Yeah. that talked
Got
about
it.
Sigil being a prison and rebelling against the lady effectively.
Okay. Thank you. Go up as you were.
Does this other space have a name?
He says that the theorists, this is a very popular theory amongst intellectuals in Sigil, because rule of threes, if there's three main areas of the multiverse, the prime, the inner, and the outer, and then there should be three transitive planes as well in between those spaces, and there's not. So this theorized place is called the Orgel plane. What kind of physical or intellectual properties it has, nobody has any idea. Nobody has any idea how the might of the powers would extend into that space, or whether it could.
Well, the only way we're going to find out is to do it.
Karathe then, he looks back up at Reese as he speaks, and he says, "At this point, I need to advise you that I've told the Factal not to undertake this endeavor. We've seen what happens to people who manage to escape the lady's mazes, and their minds are gone. There's nothing left of them. Whatever you're hoping to find there will be beyond your grasp, and anything that you bring back won't be a person." He says, "I asked her to ask you to visit a man in the gatehouse. Have you done this?"
We met him.
Yeah.
You mean Duke Darkwood?
Nath will just kind of look between them questionably.
He says, what was your interpretation of this man?"
That it was Duke Darkwood.
He was a lot less than he used to be, or still is, or however that was.
Reese suddenly asks of Mahogany, "Why are you saying he's Duke Darkwood?"
Because he did and said things that were the things Duke Darkwood would say.
And then she apparently drops the subject. Karathe then puts the question to you. He says, whether or not this man is Duke Darkwood, let's say that he is.
Right.
Let's say that you were sent into the Orgel plane using this extremely dangerous and untested mechanism to rescue Duke Darkwood, and instead you brought back the man that you met in the gatehouse. Would you consider that to be a success?
Right. Wait, is she asking Mahogany specifically?
He's asking everybody of the group.
Okay. Right.
The only
Yes.
way to find out if we can achieve success is to go in there.
That's
Not doing anything isn't going to accomplish anything.
He says that's not what I asked.
Right says yes because either she's broken. If she's broken, then she can be broken in free or broken and imprisoned. And the one situation is unquestionably an improvement.
Mahogany says if she's broken, we can fix her.
And you can tell that there's some tension between Reese and Karathe on the subject. Karathe puts to Mahogany, what if you can't? What if some broken things can't be fixed?
And Mahogany says in response, I don't like to answer pointless questions. Anything can be fixed.
He asks why your friend Serenity isn't here.
Because she chose not to be.
Why?
And Mahogany shrugs and says, assumedly, whatever she's doing now is more valuable.
And he asks, what is she doing now?
I can't say.
Why not?
Because I'm not there.
Where?
Wherever she is. Probably the Beastlands.
Which is the Beast? You think Serenity's on the Beastlands?
Well, that's probably where... We did some math, asked to talk to a wizard. We think that's probably where her petitioner went. I mean, it's not quite Serenity.
He looks to Kelian and Riot.
Kelian says he is well aware that some things can't be saved, referring to the flesh render, whatever that was. Flesh runer? Yeah, that guy.
Ugh.
And the evil castle of death that was that, and all of the walls and all of the people that made up those walls, and how he felt that the truly charitable thing to do to those people would be just kill them. And his opinion has not changed even in this scenario. If Kelian does not come back in any sort of capable functioning capacity, and it is very apparent that he has been tortured, that he is damaged, that he is not functional, then he wishes nothing but death upon himself.
That's a pretty extreme position to take.
It's
So he's
the
like-
it's the logical extension of his experience.
Kelian is like the magical DNR.
Karate listens to,
Pretty
to what Kelian says, and you can see it's kind of making him uncomfortable to hear. But at the end of it, he looks back at Mahogany and says, "At least your friend has put some thought into it."
And Mahogany says in response, I put action into my beliefs.
What kind of answer does Riot give as to if things can be fixed? Why didn't you fix Serenity? That was the topic at hand.
Oh, okay. So he's asking about that specifically, not about J-Bull at the moment.
I mean, you get the sense that he's kind of probing everybody to make sure that
Yeah.
everybody really understands what they're about to do.
If things get fixed, why?
The underlying question here is he doesn't believe that Jade Bull is salvageable.
Yeah.
Whatever you find in that maze is not going to be the woman that Reese remembers.
And Riot asked him, have you ever used the resurrection spell before?
He says he's familiar with the properties of it and leaves it at that.
Then you know that it's the deceased choice whether or not to come back or not. And so Serenity had that choice, and she was free to make it. And she made it one way, and now she's where she is. J-Bull right now doesn't have a choice to do anything. We got to go in there and give her that choice.
Then very bluntly, he asks what stakes Nath has in this situation.
At this point, intellectual curiosity and apparently some sort of bond with these people and a power, I believe, was what we had decided on.
And probably a power.
A few lesser snakes back in Sigil, but mostly, I would say, after everything we've been through, these are my friends, and I'm more than willing to work with them on this.
And then he looks the rest of you over for a long time, as though he's contemplating something. Then he looks back at Reese. And he says, it would appear you've brought the right people after all. They seem to know what they're getting into, if nothing else. And at this point, Reese turns and starts walking back up the stairs. Karate says he's going to need some time with each of you to calibrate the machinery. There's a variety of races and ages and different physical properties that he's going to have to go over with each of you in private. That this process will probably take several days, and he advises you to spend as much of this time as you can out in the light, out in the sunlight of Elysium. And personally, he wouldn't hold it against anybody if they just chose to leave.
What physical properties would be easiest for you? Because I'm good for whatever.
And he gives that question exactly the regard it deserves.
It's gonna be 4 people and a bear. tied up to this machine.
Who wants to go through this process first, though?
I'll do it. Riot
Okay.
figures it's not the most painful process she's ever been through.
Okay.
She's thinking back to the screen red.
I don't know. Liberation had himself strapped into a machine that broke all his arms and legs. That was
That's
pretty
true.
good.
Hey, he has to learn. Polymorphing HP isn't for funsies.
So there's some mechanical decisions you guys are going to have to make here. You won't be physically traveling to anywhere. You're going to be in this chair the whole time. At the same time, though, you won't be in the chair. You will be somewhere else. Where that is, he can only guess at. The problem with this situation is that your equipment is not you. Your equipment is separate from you. So he explains that anything that you have a magical bond with, anything you're attuned with, you'll be able to bring on the journey. Aside from that, the machine that he's built can magically bind 4 other items.
Okay.
Total or per person?
Per person. So your magic items are fine. Outside of that, you have to each think of 4 pieces of equipment you want to bring with you.
Does that mean like? So, like
I think
crossbow bolts
attuned
and
magical
thoughts.
items are fine.
Yeah, 2 magical items do not count towards this number.
Would the myself include just a basic set of clothing, or will we
No.
be naked in there? I don't really have a problem being naked in there. It's more just a question of curiosity.
If you want to bring 4 weapons, and no, you're just going to be out there dong a swinging.
Sorry, I don't know why I found it so funny.
Because I said the words dong a swinging. That's just a funny phrase. That's why you laugh.
7 dongs a swinging.
What about
Sorry.
items that we tend to think of communally, like Kelian's crossbows or Nath's components?
Kelian's crossbow bolts
Yeah.
are part of a magically attuned item.
What about Nath? I'm more speaking for Nath's material components.
Nath has some hard decisions to make. He did acquire a new spell focus on Elysium.
Yeah, so it's just a question of the
Hey,
cost
bring
of
that.
components.
Bring the spell focus.
But like if you want to try to cast the Raise Dead spell 4 times, you've got to bring 4 diamonds. So it's going to be very hard decisions to make.
Would thieves' tools be one object, or is each object and of it?
It's not Thieves' Tool.
I think what I would do in that case is
This is the reason why I'm asking.
I would just let you bring the thieves' tools, but then just impose disadvantage on using them because you can literally only bring like 1 pick or
Okay.
something. So
Okay.
Riot, he asks a lot of questions about your heritage.
Okay.
So the first thing he does is set you down in this chair and make a lot of adjustments to your height and weight. And on each of the armrests is like a small kind of rubber cap. And he tells you under no circumstances yet should you open that cap. He's just making sure that you can sit in a position of general comfort in this chair. He says once the apparatus is engaged, he will put all of you under a very strong magical paralysis, as well as securing you with the straps on the chair. But he asks you a lot of questions about your heritage, whether or not you know, like where on the Great Ring your blood originates.
It's Yugoloth blood, as I recall.
Okay. And as you're answering these questions, you see him messing with switches and levers and plugging and unplugging various wires and pipes into the machine in the center of the room. And as he's doing this, you see the liquid in a large glass orb moving in peculiar patterns. He asks if you're sure about that. If you're completely certain. It's very important you know the answer to this.
I might have to get back to you. Might have to cast a setting. Hey, can you like compile a list of questions and I can call my mom or something?
Call Osprey.
It's from her side.
He says if there's any uncertainty, that's fine. He can calibrate around that. But if you tell him you're one thing and you're actually another, that could be a big problem.
Yeah, understood.
So we're going with Yugoloth blood?
Yeah.
and he makes all the necessary adjustments. He asks you a great deal of questions about Mahogany. A lot of questions about his ambitions inside the faction. To what degree do you know, like how high in the ranks of the Cypher is he trying to climb? Has he done anything to try to garner Factal Reese's favor, that kind of thing?
He's asking Riot all this?
He's asking Riot this.
Huh, okay. Riot thinks to yourself, like, no, he doesn't seem to have any ambition. I mean, well, no, that's not true. Sorry. I know I shouldn't be lying to you. I think he said at one point that he hoped to see Serenity Factals someday.
And he snorts and says that that's not likely to happen now.
Well, no, it sure isn't. But then I guess he thinks he's going to live long enough that maybe it'll be him someday. It seems like a long shot to me, but, there you go. That's his ambition. Someday, in the far, far future, when the plane wills it, he'll be Factal, he figures.
He doesn't ask many questions about Nath or Kelian. Just mostly the questions he does ask are about Riot's personal connections with them. Like, how well does she know them personally? Does she consider them friends? I mean, obviously they adventure together, but he doesn't go into much more detail than that on those two people. He does ask some questions about your connection with Osprey and divine magic. He says it's entirely possible that when you go through to the other side, when you arrive on the Orgel plane, there will be no connection to your power. You understand that?
That works both ways, right? So there's some concern.
He says if there's no connection to your power, and he never mentions Osprey by name, he kind of lays it out. You'll be unable to use any divine abilities that your power typically grants you. Any items granted you by your power may not function properly. These are the kind of things you need to know before you're in a life or death situation.
Right.
Just so you're prepared.
Yeah, I get it.
And he has some probing questions about your spell focus, which is still your guitar, right? That's never changed?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not a magical item. That's gonna be one of my 4 things that I have to take. It's just
okay.
The strings that are attuned.
And he does have a great amount of interest in arcane magic, especially considering the source of yours is music and not a lot of studying. He says that all of the research, all of the theorizing and speculation into the Orgel and how it might function, and some of the functions that he's used in this machine to kind of probe what's on the other side, suggests that arcane magic should work mostly okay. He's pretty sure it won't be as tumultuous as traveling from outer plane to outer plane, where you have to learn a new set of rules for each one.
Okay.
But he says pay careful attention and keep careful track of the magic you use and how it responds when you use it.
Yeah, I'll make notes for you. We'll do some research.
And he clarifies that he's not interested in learning this research. He's saying this is information that might save your life over there. Just because a spell works, if you use a spell and it doesn't work the way that you are used to, make note of why, because the next spell, it might inform you of how the next spell is going to work. Any information you bring back, you'll be able to sell to the Alkayandax for much more than the Transcendent Order would offer.
Oh yeah, I meant to ask you about that. Whatever you say, I'm with you because you're helping us on this. Are you okay with us telling the Alkayandax about what goes on here?
He says that he severed ties with the Alkayandax over a century ago.
Because you were talking about how important it was. Even the fact that we're able to go here and that you got the machine fall into mortal hands, like, they count, right?
He says that it's his desire that knowledge of this machine doesn't reach them. But if it does, there are protections in place to make sure they can't seize it.
I figure, yeah, setting up shop on Elysium is one good way to do that.
And then he asks for... He actually, on the side of your chair, there are literally 4 large containers, each one connected to your apparatus and to the globe in the middle with a pipe. And he asks you to place the items that you want to bring with you into those containers.
Okay.
So you don't have to make that. You don't have to make that decision right now if you haven't already thought about it.
Okay, gotcha. I mean, I've kind of looked over my stuff. Definitely the holy symbol, the guitar. She unhooks a lip ring from her lip and puts it in there. That's the copper one that she chose to make sure she always has, so she can always cast sending and/or message.
Okay.
And the 4th thing I don't have yet, but those 3 definitely.
Who wants to go through this process next?
I'll go.
Mm-hmm. So he is greatly worried about Mahogany going through this device because he knows that Mahogany's magic is not from an arcane source. And he lays it out the same way he did for Riot. It's entirely possible when you go to this other place that you'll have no connection to your power. And are you prepared for that challenge?
What about my shapeshifting? Is that a Lou thing, or because it generally doesn't get affected when I travel far from my power?
He says that in his estimation, the Orgel plane most assuredly has properties of both the astral and the ethereal. That means that your sense of self, your sense of what you are, is going to be very, very important there. As to how this interacts with shape-shifting, he says that you should be very careful of it, the same way as you would be of magic. It's probably okay to, for example, I don't know why anyone would want to do this, but to transform into a bear for some reason.
All right.
He says, but the risk you might run is losing your sense of self if you shapeshift too much. And that's all the information he's able to give you. That's all the advice. He says you're going to have to get there and play around with it some and find out what the limitations are